Well, there are 8 diseases, 8 chronic metabolic diseases. They existed before 50 years ago, but they have jumped in prevalence so severely that these 8, when you group them and conglomerate them, now account for 75% of all healthcare costs in the United States. And I'll name them. Here they are: type 2 diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia, fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian disease. These are mitochondrial diseases. The point is that there is not one of those diseases was a child's disease, and now they're all child diseases. We never saw type 2 diabetes in a child before, and now 1 out of every 3 new diabetes diagnoses in children is type 2. Fatty liver disease was the disease of alcohol, and now 5-year-olds have fatty liver disease. Children are the canaries in the coal mine. Children are getting the diseases of alcohol. Children are getting the diseases of aging. Children are getting the diseases of mitochondrial dysfunction when they never did before. How come? Because they're eating processed food. In fact, processed food is not food. What is the definition of food? If you go to the dictionary, which I did, here's the definition: substrate that contributes to either the growth or burning of an organism. The growth or burning of an organism. All right? Now, processed food is high sugar, low fiber. Real food is low sugar, high fiber. So let's talk about what food is, what processed food is, and whether or not processed food actually meets this definitional criteria. So let's talk about burning first. Turns out sugar, this molecule that we all love, we all seek, which actually is addictive in 20% of the population, just the same as alcohol. Turns out fructose, when you burn it in a bomb calorimeter, gives you 4 calories per gram. Same as protein, same as other carbohydrates. But we're not bomb calorimeters. In fact, fructose, when you consume it, actually inhibits burning. It inhibits mitochondrial function, the little energy burning factories inside all our cells. It inhibits our ability to take substrate and turn it into chemical energy called ATP. Now, the mitochondria's job is to generate ATP. That's what powers all of our cells. If you're not making ATP, that means you're dead. It's just that simple. On, off. Either you make ATP or you don't. The point is that when you're metabolically healthy, you make ATP well. When you're metabolically ill, you make ATP poorly because of mitochondrial dysfunction, because your mitochondria aren't working well. Turns out fructose inhibits mitochondrial function. Now, the other carbohydrate, the other simple sugar, the one that we measure in our bloodstream, the one that everyone talks about, is glucose. Now, glucose is the energy of life. No argument. Every cell on the planet burns glucose for energy. Glucose is so goddamn important that if you don't consume it, your body makes it. A process called gluconeogenesis. So fat will turn into glucose in your liver. Amino acids will turn into glucose in your liver. People who eat no carbohydrate at all, people on the ultimate ketogenic diet, if you will, okay, still have a serum glucose level. And the reason is because their liver will take the fat and the protein and turn it into glucose. That's how important glucose is. All right? Glucose, for lack of a better word, is essential. But it's not essential to consume it. It's essential to have it, but it's not essential to consume it because your body will make it. Now, fructose, on the other hand, is a whole nother ballgame because there's no biochemical reaction in any vertebrate cell, any animal cell on the planet that requires dietary fructose for functioning. And it turns out that fructose is a mitochondrial toxin. And the reason is because it inhibits three separate enzymes in mitochondria. Well, there are 8 diseases, 8 chronic metabolic diseases. They existed before 50 years ago, but they have jumped in prevalence so severely that these 8, when you group them and conglomerate them, now account for 75% of all healthcare costs in the United States. And I'll name them. Here they are: type 2 diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia, fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian disease. These are mitochondrial diseases. The point is that there is not one of those diseases was a child's disease, and now they're all child diseases. We never saw type 2 diabetes in a child before, and now 1 out of every 3 new diabetes diagnoses in children is type 2. Fatty liver disease was the disease of alcohol, and now 5-year-olds have fatty liver disease. Children are the canaries in the coal mine. Children are getting the diseases of alcohol. Children are getting the diseases of aging. Children are getting the diseases of mitochondrial dysfunction when they never did before. How come? Because they're eating processed food. Processed food is a relatively recent invention. Started after World War II because we started subsidizing commodities during the first Farm Bill, 1933, with the Depression and the Dust Bowl. And World War II basically figured out how to process food and deliver it en masse to, the army. And then we, realized we could make money doing this. And it was good for waste because, it increased shelf life. And so we went into mass production mode of processed food. And that's when the chronic metabolic diseases started, rearing their ugly head and started being seen in children. So there was no such thing as fatty liver disease until 1980 in anyone. Today, 45% of American adults have fatty liver disease and 25% of children, when this wasn't even a disease before. So you got to look to say, all right, what happened? And the bottom line is processed food happened. These diseases are actually symptoms of disease. The high LDL is not the disease, it's the symptom of the disease. The high blood pressure is not the disease, it's the symptom of the disease. The high blood glucose is not the disease, it's the symptom of the disease. The high uric acid is not the disease, it's the symptom of the disease. All of these are manifestations of dysfunction of cells in our bodies. And that's the disease, these abnormal pathologies that have basically sprung up and are being, have overtaken our general metabolism. In my book, back here, Metabolical, I list the 8 subcellular pathologies that actually belie all of these chronic diseases. So, number one, glycation. Number two, oxidative stress. Number three, mitochondrial dysfunction, which we've been talking about. Number four, insulin resistance. Number five, membrane instability. Number six, inflammation. Number seven, methylation. Number eight, autophagy. Now, there is no ICD-11 code for any of those. Doctors don't get reimbursed for any of those. Doctors don't know what they are because they're not taught in medical school. Doctors don't know how to teach patients what they are, because why would you bring something up in a doctor-patient conversation when you don't have any answers for them? So, like, why would you bother? So the doctors don't know, the patients don't know. Organs and all the different intermediary pathways that are involved. And when you actually look at all of these inherent pathways that are going on inside cells, you come to a stark realization. There are no drugs for this. These 8 processes are not druggable. They are foodable. There's food to fix them. So food can either cause them or food can fix them. So this is where I actually get mad about the food is medicine movement. Real food is medicine. Processed food is poison. When you just say food is medicine, you're missing the point. It's the food that made the disease in the first place. So you have to understand that processed food is not food. And once you get that into your head, once you understand that Cheetos is not food, then all things are possible. But that's a heavy lift for a lot of people.
It's a heavy lift.